Welcome back. Today we are taking a look at the final role quest for Endwalker. Now, in order to do this, you have to complete all the other role quests available, and then this was made available with 6.1. So it's called Bitter Snow. Let's see what it's about. Well, if it isn't Allah, all-around good egg and champion of, well, the whole world, I suppose. Word travels fast, my friend. We've heard all about your exploits defeating the blasphemies that plagued the good people of Eorzea and Doma. Sadly, there are other fell beasts that yet want for slaying, but fear not, our efforts to bring them low proceed apace, and we've had not but glad tidings from our allies. Perhaps the most surprising report came from Warlet, where soldiers led by the infamous Black Wolf fought alongside Alamegan troops for yet another hard-earned victory. Reports from Garlemald, however, suggest another blasphemy threat lurks in the snows, and we've received a petition for assistance. Strange, don't you think? When the effects of the final days began to spread in earnest, we encountered a great many monsters in Garlemald, but never a blasphemy. To make matters worse, they say the Garleans who chose to remain and rebuild began transforming into more hideous creatures. From what I understand, it was you and your comrades who brought an end to the source of the final days, is that right? Even so, it would appear its effects will linger a while longer. Until this malevolent influence on the Akasha subsides, I dare say this won't be the last time we hear of such sightings. As for the blasphemy, we have reason to believe it is a great deal stronger than any we've faced thus far. Your strength and experience would prove quite valuable, if you're willing to help, of course. Truly, our contacts in Charlian will be thrilled to hear it. Though they did not explicitly request your presence, it was clear from the first they were hoping for it. Though, if I may be frank, I was not expecting Charlian of all places to be so concerned with the present state of Garlemald. What with their strict policies on non-intervention, perhaps we'll find out the reason before this is all over. But that's an inquiry for another time. I'll not keep you any longer. Once you arrive in Garlemald, I should think the intelligence officer stationed there will be more than happy to apprise you of the situation. Allah. The Allah. It's an honor to have you with us, sir. I presume you've come to assist in our hunt for the blasphemy. Maxima and Lucia will be pleased to hear it. If you would come this way. It's good to see you, Allah, though I wish it were under more fortuitous circumstances. We were reluctant to call upon you, knowing you but recently returned from far reaches of the heavens, but we are no less glad for your aid. Now then, I believe it best if the man who first discovered this blasphemy explained the situation. Out and about, eh? Ah, Allah. Good. We may forego introductions, then. Thank you for answering our call for assistance. As for the situation at hand, it concerns the joint efforts between the Forum and the Loperites to find new purpose for the moon. While there is no longer need for a vessel to evacuate the star, we believe the moon may yet prove of use to the people of Atheris. After much contemplation, a rather ingenious proposal was put forward. to transform the moon into a repository for man's knowledge, an archive of hitherto unseen scale. Charlian has had the honor of boasting incomparable repositories of the world's knowledge, but it is far from perfect. Should calamity befall us, natural or otherwise, the wisdom of ages we have long labored to preserve would be lost. But the moon is beyond any such risk. What's more, it is beyond the jurisdiction of any one nation. Thus did we consult the allied nations of Eorzea, the Far East, and Rozet-Han. They agreed to assembling a survey team to take measure of the moon and its potential as a repository. Our plans for assessment were forestalled, however, by the presence of an entity we believed to be a blasphemy in the Tower of Babel. Claims of Garlean citizens transforming into monsters shortly after its discovery only gave further credence to our initial supposition. But we've not only ill tidings to share, reinforcements have dispatched to aid us in quelling the blasphemy threat. Lord Arturel and a member of Gridania's Keepers of the Entwined Serpents have already begun an investigation into the catalyst of these transformations. Though the skies no longer burn, and the spread of this affliction is much curtailed, we must remain vigilant. Until the blasphemy threat has been quelled, Alphino and Alize have graciously offered to keep calm the people of Tertium while we attend to the people here. But the matter of the blasphemy is not so easily resolved, I'm afraid. We recently met with certain complications that have hindered our plans. Ugiri and Fordola are presently deliberating how best to resolve the situation. Perhaps it would be best if you heard the details directly from them. I should like to join you, if I may, as this endeavor was originally undertaken under Charlian's behalf. I feel it is my responsibility to see this through to its conclusion. Hey, girls. I did not expect to see you here of all places, but I am no less glad for your presence. I presume word of the blasphemy is what brought you here, in which case I believe it may be best if a member of the reconnaissance team's guard explain the situation. This guy. An acquaintance of yours. Long time no see, Lawrence. I've heard tell you were the worldly sort, but bugger me if I knew you were heard. But bugger me if I know where you heard my name before. I'm just a lowly sword for hire, hoping to fatten my purse with a touch of mercenary work after taking my leave from Limsa. The job sounded simple enough, but, well, I am sure you wouldn't be here if it were, eh? But you didn't come all this way to hear about me, did you? The blasphemy we're after is making its nest in the upper reaches of the Tower of Babel. The auxiliary sector, I believe it is. But it wasn't alone. A sizable horde of beasts were circling about like knights protecting the queen. Naturally, we thought to strike from a distance before engaging in earnest, but not a single bullet reached its mark. They were protected by some manner of mystical shroud, as far as I could figure. Without a keen eye for magic, I don't see anyone getting through. By the time we understood the futility of the situation, we'd been spotted. Retreat was our only option. Pains me to say it, but there won't be any brute force in our way through this one. My understanding was that, once transformed, these blasphemies are completely devoid of ether. With what energies could it create such a barrier? That's the question, isn't it? My first thought was some hereto unknown technique for conjuring shields. Needless to say, I'm out of my depth when it comes to matters of magic. Which is precisely why I plan to speak with the Elder Seedseer when she arrives. If anyone can help us find a way to overcome the blasphemy's protection, it's her. In the meantime, could we trouble you to help us with the not-so-small matter of people changing into beasts? The blasphemy's horde was large enough when first we found it. We can't afford for more to join its ranks. Very well. We shall reconvene with Lord Artuel and discuss strategy. Before you go, there's something else you should know about the tower. From the moment we set foot inside, I could swear there was someone or something watching us. I shrugged it off, thinking it a figment of my imagination, but in hindsight, I'm not so sure. Nothing to worry ourselves about now, but best keep on your guard when we do finally return to the tower, eh? Ah, Hala, 'tis good to have you with us, friend. Indeed, the road before us is not an easy one, and a man of your talents will prove invaluable to our efforts. But we recently returned from reconnaissance, wherein we made a few rather surprising discoveries. First and foremost, we were pleased to discover that no one residing within Camp Broken Glass or Tertium? I think it's Tertium, have returned. No doubt thanks to the concerted efforts of Maxima, Alphino, and Alize. However, we have a reason to believe that those who did turn all hail from Locus Amonis. You mean Corvus, the Garlean's ancestral home. The very same. When the ill effects of the final days began to manifest there, a number of Garlean refugees from the region sought sanctuary in Garlemald. But the capital was already in ruins when they arrived. They were offered asylum, but many refused and instead chose to fend for themselves on the outskirts of the city. We are of a mind to go speak with them directly if you would care to join us. Perhaps together we can learn what their recent circumstances has triggered such terrible change among their people. Time being of the essence, I believe it prudent we split into two groups and cover as much ground as we may, as quickly as possible. If you and Master Fortuno would inquire after the people at Victor's Spoils, the two of us shall see what we may learn at Liminal Station 4. When you have finished, pray meet us there. Victor Spoils is to the east here, yes? Let us be off. That they should choose to reside here in the cold, I can but presume they will not be amenable to conversation. Even so, we must not be deterred. Come. Talk? What is there to talk about? We've no home, no future, nothing. This doom spells the end for us all. Fucking... my vision's a little blurry today. As I was passing by, I thought it said wild refugee. Come to hear our grievances, have you? We've more than you have time to hear, then. Yeah. We've more than... why do people have to talk weird? We've more than you have time to hear them, I'm sure. We've lost not one, but two homes. Our loved ones, our livelihood, there's nothing left. I've served my time with the military. For what? To lose all my friends, my son, and there was naught to show for it but our claim to Locus Amonis. Or so we thought. Calamity was visited upon us for reasons we know not, and when we thought to flee, it followed on our heels to Garlemald, ruin and ashes at every turn. Can't imagine why you or anyone else would feign interest in our troubles, but if you insist, you'll find a great many of people here were in the military at one time or another. Some retiring with honors, and others without. Sadly, I'm one of the later, bore one too many scars in battle. Even so, my contributions were enough to warrant leave to Locus Amonis. It was a land of warmth and bounty. The Corvosi rebellion admittedly proved troublesome for a time, but it didn't take long for the Second Legion to quell their uprising. You could practically drown in the calm and quiet. And then one day the skies came alive with flame. We were overrun by all manner of foul beasts born of our brothers and sisters. The Second Legion barely had time to assemble their forces before they were overrun and snuffed out. We barely escaped with our lives. But we were greeted only with more wrack and ruin on our arrival here, and we've not the strength to take our home back from the Corvosi a second time. There's nothing left for us anywhere. Did you learn aught of how they came to be in such dire straits? I see. I heard much of the same. The military forces of Locus Amonis were defeated in the wake of the final days. Desperate to survive, they naturally fled to Garlemald seeking sanctuary. It was their hope the might of the Empire would allow them to reclaim the home they were forced to abandon. But the capital was already in ruin when they arrived. Needless to say, the lands they have long believed to be the ancestral home of the Garlean people may remain forever lost to them. Those unfamiliar with history would believe they have always resided in the bitter cold climes of northern Ilsebard, but that was only after the Corvosi invaded 800 years prior. With the advent of Magitech, I imagine it was all too easy for our Emperor Sullus to rally his people and take back what they believed to be rightfully theirs. Yet history would tell us true, that the land called Locus Amonis has been known by other names, and served as home to myriad peoples. Indeed, one need only look back to the Allagan's reign in the Third Astral Era to give the lie to the Garleans' claim of sovereignty. Yet even had they such ancestral ties to Locus Amonis, antecedents cannot justify their animosity to foreign peoples. Animosity poorly veiled by delusions of justice, as has been the case for so many nations throughout history. Would that man had sense and strength of will to break free from such chains of hatred. Help someone, they've returned, oh no. Another monster. Quickly, Ollie, we haven't a moment to lose. One of my mates seemed unwell, so I thought to come over and look in on him. Next thing I knew, no one appears to be injured. Did he not attack? He just walked off in the direction of the tower, in a daze as if it was calling to him. He could not have gone far. If you would go after him, I will remain here and see that all are accounted for. Simple enough. The beast is slain then, thank the heavens. For a blessing, no others have turned, and a measure of calm has been restored, if only for the moment. Witnesses were able to offer a clue as to the source of the transformation. They claimed the afflicted was listening to this radio, even now as it continues to play the same cryptic message. Empire, no more, never again, rise, ashes. And hear a voice, the Empire is no more, never again shall it rise from the ashes. But how is this possible? There are no faculties left standing that could possibly deliver a broadcast. Be that as it may, Anima is no more. The Tower of Babel has fallen into disrepair. By your hands, no less. Which begs the question, who or perhaps what could be behind this? Allah, Master Fortuno, a moment, if you would. Hey! Shortly after we finished our inquiry at Liminal Station 4, Lord Emmerich and Admiral Merlweb arrived and requested an audience. Apologies for our late arrival. Knowing firsthand the devastation of which blasphemies are capable, I discussed the matter with the Admiral, and we were of one mind that the situation warranted our immediate presence. Is it safe to presume a representative of the survey team has already arrived? Indeed, I have. Thank you for coming all this way on such short notice. Recent events here in the camp have proved most enlightening. And this is the aforementioned radio. Empire, no more, never again, rise ashes. A harsh reminder of their misfortune, sufficient to push some wayward few over the edge, it would seem. Yet there still remains the question of who is sending this message, and from where. Glory, everlasting Garlemald. For glory everlasting for Garlemald. No, it couldn't be. You recognize this message? A mantra often spoken by Lord Nerva. Anyone who lived in the provinces under his authority could scarcely forget those words. He sought to claim the throne after the assassination of Emperor Varus, did he not? After civil war broke out, he all but disappeared according to the intelligence we managed to gather. How could he have managed to breach the tower undetected? To have done so and remain unnoticed by the creatures infesting the tower seems a high impossible task, unless... I do. And as it was with Anima, these radios are somehow attuned to whatever signal it emits from the tower. What's more, I believe the true identity of the blasphemy is Nerva, robbed of the throne and forced to watch the empire he longed to command crumble before his very eyes. If such a loss did not drive him to the same fate as Quintus, the despair he felt no doubt overcame and turned him. Nerva's delusions of grandeur aside, the Garleans' plight sounds not unlike the Sahagin, desperate to preserve their spawning grounds. Indeed, though unscrupulous by any measure, Garleans found solidarity in their ideology, as did the people of Ishgard in the church, adrift without home or purpose. It is all too easy for despair to take hold. Would that our remedy were simple as offering them land as we did the Sahagin. In all likelihood, the Garleans would refuse to settle for aught less than what they believe to be their ancestral homeland of Logus Amonis, a claim the Corvosi would readily take arms to denounce. we would do well not to further fan the flames of animosity twixt them. Then perhaps at the very least we can offer them peace of mind, and a means to regain some semblance of stability in their lives. Garlemald must be rebuilt. By no means an easy solution, but perhaps the only one worthy of pursuit. Of course, this new Garlemald must remain a sovereign nation, free from the oversight of others. Aye, they would see no meaning in it otherwise. If I'm not mistaken, Alphino and Alize have already made strides in helping the people here regain some normalcy of their day-to-day living. Most important first step, but it will mean little without proper leadership. Rather than a single individual, perhaps a governing body of sorts would prove more effective. There are a number of former Senate members among the refugees at Camp Bergen, as I recall. With their help, creating the framework for a new governance is not an impossibility. Then let us call the people together and see what they make of our proposal. The final days has taken much from you all, but I can imagine the pain you feel in the face of such immeasurable loss. And though the final days have been averted, its effects yet linger, and a blasphemy has been born of your suffering. Decisive action must be taken before further harm is wrought upon you. To overcome such adversity is too great a task for any one person. But as a people united, there may yet be hope for the morrow. While it is not our place to decide how you will move forward, we would offer a small measure of guidance. We were told a number of former members of your Senate yet remain among you. Would you be amiable to an interim government held by these individuals until such a time as Garlemald can be rebuilt? Rebuild Garlemald? Is such a thing truly possible? Even if we do cobble together some governing council, they won't be making anything of that pile of ash we dare call Garlemald. There's no going back to Locus Amounus either. Rack and ruin, those are our only options. I realize to rebuild Garlemald is a seemingly impossible task, but you needn't undertake it alone. My children are working with members of the First Legion as we speak to begin an organized relief effort. And there are others from the provinces no doubt willing to lend their expertise. You need but ask, not as would-be conquerors, but as brothers and sisters of this star, and others will heed your call. If you should still see no merit in rebuilding of Garlemald, then I would instead offer you residency in Charlian. I promise you will be welcomed with open arms. Charlian? So now you'd expect us to go and lick boots in some country we've never even ever heard of before. My apologies if I appeared overly forward in my proposition. Considering our strict policies of non-intervention until but recently, it is not surprising that you are unfamiliar with my homeland. It is an island nation to the north, home to myriad peoples, which is why I believe it would not prove difficult to accommodate you and yours. To be clear, you would not be migrating to Charlian to live in servitude. You have my word to each and every one of you would be guaranteed citizenship upon entry. And why exactly would you go to such lengths for us, for the conquerors you barely know? Charlian was long aware of the coming doom that would be the final days, and so we were preparing to evacuate this star, taking as many people and resources as our stores would allow. Initially, it was our intent to save the people of Garlemald as well, but we had not forgotten your transgressions invading Alamigo, your rejection of our entreaties for peace. After the great deal of deliberation, it was decided that we would forego an invitation to Garlemald, a determination made with great trepidation. We had convinced ourselves it was ultimately for the greater good, though I can think of at least one individual who would continue to protest. To ignore the plight of others, to ignore the plight of those we might conceivably save is not wisdom, it is indolence. Sage counsel I brazenly cast aside when confronted with the final days in earnest. But Allah here and his comfort refused to forsake those we were otherwise unwilling to save. With great risk to themselves, they achieved the impossible, and opened my eyes to the error of the Forum's decision. If all roads lead to ruin regardless, perhaps we should at least consider it. Then it would be my pleasure to invite you all to Camp Broken Glass, where you shall have warm food and beds both. Admiral Merleweb and I shall speak with Maxima and the others, and consider how best to assist the Garleans moving forward. Should we broach the subject of blasphemy, however, we will not hesitate to call upon you. That Nero, what you doing back there? You're the only motherfucker wearing those red boots. Come on. With the Garleans' hearts at ease, the likelihood of others turning has greatly diminished. That said, there's no cause for us to grow complacent. We must needs find a way to overcome the blasphemy's protective warding. If I understand correctly, a blasphemy's behavior is oftentimes influenced by the memories and emotions of their originator, in which case it would be prudent to learn more of the man who birthed this monstrosity. Foretold us, then, that a number of soldiers from the 3rd Legion are in our custody. From mercy, their tempering was not so severe as to be beyond our ability to heal them. They are presently being treated at Camp Broken Glass. Perhaps the camp's intelligence officer can tell us who among them knows aught of Nerva's whereabouts. I see. Perhaps it'd be best if you speak with Virgilia, legatus of the 3rd Legion. She's still on the mend, but the Chirurgeons aren't like to oppose a brief conversation. If you would wait here a moment. Is that the woman in the white armor we fought during that instance battle, entering Garlemald? It is. Yours is champion, I presume. And one with his cohorts. What business have you with me? Ilsabard is faced with imminent crisis, and we believe the knowledge you bear may be the key in stopping it. Thus do we believe the blasphemy to be Nerva, whose whereabouts in the wake of Garlemald's fall, or lack thereof, give credence to our theory. Lord Nerva. From what we've pieced together thus far, you were one of the last to see him alive. Please, will you not share with us what you know? Very well. I suspect what meager knowledge I possess shall avail you not. I last spoke with Lord Nerva shortly after the warring with the First Legion began. Cloistered within the lower levels of Seneculum Imperialis, he spent the better part of the day listening attentively to the radio. He seemed hopeful, or perhaps desperate, for news that the tide might turn in our favor. The next day, I left for the front line. It was there I heard a terrible noise, which I presume came from the Tower of Babel. Then darkness took me, and I remember not after that. I was told the radios protected those close to them from the effects of the tower, in which case Lord Nova would have remained unaffected. But he has ever been devoted to Garlemald, for glory everlasting, he would say. To watch the empire he loved so dearly crumble, I can think of no one who would be more stricken by this sight. It would seem we were right to assume what became of Norva. I keep combining Lord and Nerva to just say Norva, and it does not surprise me the beast would choose to make its nest within the Tower of Babel. It stands atop the remains of the Imperial Palace and the throne he revered so highly. But the Empire is no more, and Lord Nerva apparently is no longer the man he once was. He deserves to be laid to rest, together with his dreams of glory. We will fell the beast, you have my word. Apologies for the interruption. Kane-sama has arrived. We're ready to depart. It is good to see you, Allah, Master Fortuno. I have spoken with Lawrence of the ward protecting the blasphemy, and I am quite confident some manner of aether-based magic bars our path. If I may be so bold, Elder Seedseer, we've reached the same conclusion initially, but that simply is not possible. These creatures born of the final days are devoid of ether, as much they would be unable to produce such a barrier in a manner of which we are accustomed. Do you suppose it possible they manipulated dynamics to achieve a similar effect? I too thought to dismiss the notion of a barrier fueled by ether. That is until I stepped foot here in Garlemald. Even now I can sense streams of ether flowing towards the tower. Its purpose was, after all, to harvest reservoirs of energy sufficient to reach the moon. Even if one was incapable of manipulating ether directly, it stands to reason control of the tower would alleviate such a need. It's merely a conjecture, of course, I cannot say for certain until I examine the currents with mine own eyes. Might I ask you to accompany us? I would join you as well, if I may. My injuries would keep me from being of use in battle, but my knowledge of the land should serve just as well as my blade. I would not be opposed to your company, but it is not my decision to make. She may go, so long as she remains under watch by you and the others. Very good. Might I suggest we begin with Regio Urbanissima? I sense the greatest confluence of ether in that vicinity. Dude, come say hi. Fuck. Alright, I'm actually going to grab some water, just because this is a lot of reading, I'm doing a lot of talking, and my throat is dry. So I shall return anon, and then edit this out of the fucking video. Alright, I've got my water. Ready to continue. I've just had a thought that I've thought of before. But, like, obviously, it feels like Garlemald should be rebuilt at some point. But that presents a problem? I hope I'm using this term logistically. It's creating sort of a logistic problem, I think. In the sense that, I'm probably not using it right, but to explain, what do we do if there exists two different Garlemalds in the game, right? Let's say later on during the story we fix it. Great, everything's all shiny and new. Will there be a separate instance for people who have, made it that far in the story, as opposed to the ruined Garlemald that newer players would experience? Because, like, the two can't exist in the same place, obviously. And you can't just get rid of one to, replace it with the other. This one's going to have to be here for people who haven't done it yet, and people still doing old content. There's materials, supplies, enemies, and hunts, and all sorts of stuff here. So, like, and on top of that, fixing this is not something you can do in a patch. It's not something you do over the course of a few patches. With how little time has moved, officially, canonically, in the timeline, there would have to be a major time skip for that to even be possible. So, I'm just trying to think of, like, what the fuck are they actually going to do with Garlemald? Because they're saying in the story that, we gotta rebuild Garlemald, but what are the devs going to do with Garlemald, I think, is the bigger question. As I thought, the ether stream here flows towards the tower, as do all the others in this region, no doubt. This convergence first began when the Telerophoroi erected spires in all corners of Eorzea to fuel the Tower of Babel. But once destroyed, this divergence of ether should have ceased. Alright, whoever you are, if you business with us, quit your skulking about in the shadows and speak your piece. Was you there in the tower, wasn't it? Finally. My, you're sharper than you look. I recognize you. Nero, yes? Why are you following us? Who said I'm following you? Being a native of Garlemald, does it not stand to reason I might be inclined to come and see what has become of my home? You know not what you're scheming. I know not what you're scheming, but we've no time to entertain your games. Perhaps Master Garland would make better company for you. Spare me. I am a man of great ambition and greater intellect, far beyond the scope of anything Garland could hope to achieve. He still keeps his head in the clouds, while I would set my sights on to the stars beyond. Which is why you snuck into the tower. But like us, you couldn't get past the to reach the transporter. Yes, well, I was very much hoping you would dispense with that little obstacle. And having caught wind of your plans, curiosity compelled me to see if you were truly up to the task. Do you have a reason to believe we are not? Or perhaps does the great genius Nero mean to dispense with the blasphemy himself? Far be it from me to steal your glory, having come all this way. But as I am feeling generous, I will tell you what I've learned during my time in the Tower of Babel. I was able to access its systems, you see, and discovered one of those dreadful spires still appears to be active. Impossible. They all vanished when Anima was destroyed. Yes, and I've heard of your escapades reclaiming the remains of the Emperor, but obviously you failed to reclaim his entire body. As it stands, a piece remains powering a tower in Fabrica. At Fabrica. Now there is a name I don't think we've ever heard of. Ah yes, the manufacturing district just north of the erstwhile Imperial Palace. So something on the other side of the palace? A rather impressive feat, considering how these lands are so utterly devoid of ether, barely enough to sustain life, let alone the spire. But if one were to use Varys' remains to forcibly create a confluence of sorts, precisely, and from what I gleaned of the tower's systems, his heart serves as its core. Coursing not with blood, but your precious ether, and now Nerva has amassed a surfeit to shore up his defenses. How fortuitous he should find so perfect and impetuous an impetus for his design, stolen from better minds than his own. How very like him. Oh, did I say that aloud? You'll forgive me if I fail to show concern for your ire. If what you say is true, these lands could never hope to recover from such a paucity of life energies. We must hurry and find Varys' heart, to both spare the land this wanton harvesting, and deny the blasphemy the source of its protection. Are we to presume you have any intention of aiding us? As I said, I have no intention of stealing your glory, though I fear victory may soon slip through your fingers if you do not act quickly. The Tower of Babel was designed specifically for Anima to serve as the core. Nerva forcing himself upon the system has caused it to grow increasingly unstable. If my calculations are correct, and they always are, it will not be long before his presence triggers a system meltdown. The resulting explosion will destroy whatever tenuous streams of ether breathe life into the lands of Garlemald. But more importantly, we will lose our only means of reaching the moon. The heavens forever denied my genius. I mean, we've got the Ragnarok. How so very unfortunate. In any event, 'twould seem time is of the essence. That's all well and good, but even if we know which district to search, finding the heart'll be like looking for a needle in a bloody haystack. Actually, I may know where we can start. It's all rather hazy, but I still have vague recollections of my time serving Anima when I was enthralled. We were commanded to erect some manner of facility tucked away in the corner of Fabrica. I remember not what it was for, but it's as good a place as any to begin our search. Certainly sounds promising, but surely this facility will be heavily guarded. Then maybe it best be for the best to divide our forces. If it's just the four of us, shouldn't prove too difficult to sneak inside and find the heart. Meanwhile, our main force can stand ready to storm the Tower of Babel. The barrier gives out. No, excuse me, one second. Hey, Jack. Yeah. Oh, I already talked to her about her. I'm gonna give her some money and she's just gonna get me something for it. Alright. Talk to you later. Sorry about that. Just settling the affair of dinner tonight. Be safe. Don't die. This is Levier. What? Very well. We shall return at once. A number of Garleans have left camp for the Tower of Babel. They have somehow misunderstood the threat of the tower and convinced themselves that Nerva has taken refuge there, still clinging to their ill-placed patriotism, no doubt. They could not have gone far. If we act quickly, perhaps they can be found before they come to harm. A wise man would not waste his time on a few wayward refugees. I thought you Charlian scholars knew better. Nor the yeah. Heard it quite a few times now. If it's all the same to you, Allah, I would join you. I will return to camp and begin preparations for our assault on the tower. And I suppose I should go as well. Though I am unarmed, I promise not to be a burden. That said, it would behoove us to avoid any undue confrontations if possible. Now then, let us be off. And we runnin'. No trace of them here. Let us keep searching. Did you hear that? It came from over there. You're the ones who came to speak with us before. We heard Lord Nova had returned and was assembling his forces in the tower, but... No, not Lord Nova, too. Then there really is nothing left for us. I will not deny your situation is dire, but you are not without a path forward. I believe you have the passion and conviction needed to rebuild Garlemald, if you so choose, or failing that, you could begin a new life in Charlian. Rebuild Garlemald? No, there's no point in entertaining so lofty a dream, and we would sooner die than suffer life under the rule of another. You would sooner seek death than sanctuary. Your resolve is admirable, but sorely misplaced. If you would not see Garlemald rise from the snow and ashes here in Ilsebard, might you consider venturing unto a new frontier? A new frontier? Where exactly is this land ripe for exploration? There, on the moon. It is our goal to create a repository of man's knowledge there, free from the jurisdiction of any nation. As I understand, the magitech and technological advancements of Garlemald were without peer. Your expertise would be indispensable in the endeavor should you be willing, of course. You really expect us to go live on the bloody moon? Is such a thing even possible? Have you a better alternative? Lest you forget, Garlemald did not rise to grandeur from a complacency in the present and rumination in the past. We live for the future. It is in our blood. Life is not without its hardships, of course. Even I have met with an occasional stumbling block. But even should I stumble, my eyes are forever fixed skyward, seeking ever greater heights. The Empire may be lost, but I still possess a great deal of knowledge gained from it, and a desire to seek more. The very notion of exploring the moon is an unprecedented prospect, and that you would balk at the proposition boggles the mind. Consider this. You have heard the beasts of the final days were born of those hapless souls that had given up on everything, yes? If that is indeed the case, can you tell me why you still stand before me? Because deep down you believe your life is yet worth living. Deep down, you long to reach for the unreachable. Or perhaps you don't. If you should choose to lay down and die here in the snow, that's none of my concern. Reach for the unreachable. That sounds like something I would have said back in the academy. Alright, we'll go. Suppose it's better than dying here in the snow, as you so grimly put it. Then we must first dispense with the blasphemy that commands the tower. It's hard to believe Lord Nerva of all people could have turned into one of those monsters. Please, you must stop him. Put his soul to rest. Thank you, and sorry for causing all this trouble. Thank you for the rousing call to action, but I thought you had no interest in meddling in our affairs. Lest you misunderstand, I abhor the idea of my countrymen blindly following nobles they know next to nothing about. Besides, it would be most petty piteous sight for not a single Garlean to be among those venturing to the moon. Who else am I to prevail upon to learn of new findings up there? From what Nero has told us, time is now a luxury we can ill afford. Let us return to Camp Broken Glass, if only for a moment. The others are no doubt finishing their preparations for battle. I should hope the other's absence means all proceeds apace. Good, you're here. With the recent arrival of reinforcements, our preparations are all but complete. Hey! Apologies for our lateness. It seems we are at least in time to help deliver the crushing blow. Aye, and if the fates are kind, this will be the last we see of these damnable blasphemies. Mender Aldin, Lord Hien, thank you both for coming. Boop, boop, boop. Beep, boop, boop, boop. Yes, of course. Understood. Lawrence and the others have reclaimed Averis' heart. The barrier protecting the blasphemy should soon dissipate. Then the time has come at last to storm the Tower of Babel. Admiral Merlweb and Lord Emmerich await our arrival at its base. Then we should be about it, eh? I suppose this is as good an opportunity as any to keep my hammer from rusting over. I will accompany you as well. As the forum's representative and member of the survey team, I feel it my responsibility to see this through to the end. Despite appearances, I am no stranger to the battlefield. Indeed, I have seen my fair share, traveling the world in service to the Forum. Though I may not be equal to Alphino or Alizé, we shall not find ourselves wanting. I can promise you that much. Alright, suit up, motherfuckers. We're going in. When you have all finished your preparations, we shall reconvene at the Enceladum. All are present and accounted for. Shall we proceed? Ta-da. Let's go. There's the boy. Our objective is simple. Locate and eliminate the blaspheming Nerva. Though the barrier guarding him is no more, a number of beasts will surely block the way at the auxiliary sector. Off to smashing start, I see. It would seem the tower will reach its limit sooner than I anticipated. If we're to save the transporter, we must hurry and find Nerva. Now. And we in there. Iron Nero. Should go without saying, but stay on your guard. Quite a menagerie of horrors when last I was here. Onward. So many particle effects.
The path has been revealed. The winds favor us.
Persistent, what aren't they?
You.
Why I'm here. When you see an opening, take it. Do not look back. That's the first piece. There's no end to them. Ken, why? Why you do this? Ugh. Ah, that bleed hurts. Ah. Ken, you did this to me! I was there for like 10 seconds. And you decided, I'm gonna go stand over here. Fine. Fine. Lots.
Raw Tizona! Enough!
Get him here. Stressful. Is that the last of them? Of course not. We can't afford for them to impede our advance any further. Commander Aldin, let us hold them here. Master Fortuno, take the others and go, quickly. Understood. Three-man team. That's unusual. Look at you. You became one of these things. Leave. Leave now. Garlemald is mine. Mine! You're a bit smaller than the one I fought before. Is everything on cooldown? Alright. We can go. Bravo. Heh. Thank you. Okay. Oof. Frame rate. Oof. You're just gonna stay there now? There we are. For glory everlasting indeed. Is it over? Has the danger passed? By a hair's breadth, perhaps, but yes, I'd say we've managed to avoid a fiery ruin. Our path to the moon is open once more. The duty of Charlian has ever been to chart the course of history, not to change it. Thus did we fervently hold to our policies of neutrality and non-intervention. In truth, it was all in service to our plans of exodus, to abandon the star to its ruinous fate. Harsh though it may sound, I still believe it was ultimately for the greater good. Thanks to you and your comrades, however, it was a fate that did not come to pass. Charlian will now find a new way forward, not merely for the preservation of knowledge, but for the betterment of this star, and all who call it home. I believe I speak for all the Forum when I say it would be an honor and a privilege to work toward such a goal alongside the allied nations. Aye, an age of true everlasting peace is finally within our grasps, and we will seize it together. Tis a relief to know we've no longer a need for battle. Despite my experience, I must confess I am ill-suited to it. The allied nation leaders, meanwhile, demonstrated an aptitude for combat far and above what I might expect from diplomatic figures. And you, my friend, I see now why you are so well regarded as Eorzea's champion. The others have already begun the arduous journey home, but before you go, I would offer a word of thanks to both of you. If not for your timely assistance, our plans would be forfeit, the lands of Ilsebard forever defiled by blasphemy. Please, I've no need for your platitudes. I labor only to further my own ends, nothing more. We've heard the news. Thank you for everything. With Lord Nervard laid to rest, we've the peace of mind to move on without regret. There you are. Now what is this I've heard about you cleaning out the Tower of Babel? Are we finally ready to return to the moon? Ah, what fortuitous timing. Allow me to introduce you to Livingway of the Loporets, Moon Dweller and Overseer of the Survey Team. Livingway, these good people will be the moon's first residents. I trust you and the other Loporets will take good care of them. Pleased to meet you? Residents. Oh no. I mean, oh yes, splendid. After many, many long years of planning and preparation, the moon is absolutely, most definitely, ready to accommodate your stay. Glad to hear it, and apologies for the delay. I must first confer with Lawrence and see if to our final preparations. But your residence to be and the survey team shall be along. Might I trouble you to relay word of our success to Shirabat in Razadhan? I should think the tidings all more heartening coming from you. Until next we meet. But wait, you're not leaving for the moon without me. Back to Razadhan to finish this out. So it's true then. The blasphemy in Garlemald has been struck down. They were right to call on you, it seems. And with no other outstanding reports of blasphemy sightings, I dare say you've slain the last of them. Perhaps now we can finally start to put the final days behind us, strange though that may sound. On behalf of my fellow delegates and the Radiant Host, I extend to you our humblest of thanks. I hope when next I call on you, it will be under more fortuitous circumstances. And that is that. Blessed relief. Newfound adventurer. Yep. That was fun. That was a lot of reading. That was way longer than I thought it was going to be. An hour and 40 minutes. Oh, man. Good stuff. Yeah, the question of Garlemald's future is, not sure what to say about that. What the devs will ultimately decide to do about it. But that is a discussion for another time. I am off to, I think that's all that I have to do today. MSQ, unlock the 24-man, and this. So yeah, all that's left to do is to hopefully do the 24-man tomorrow, which you guys will see later. So, bye-bye for now. Take care.